Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where we will go beyond the ordinary and embrace the extraordinary. Be part of down-to-earth, no BS conversations where we will explore hot topics on love and money, relationships and business, beauty, and who we get to be with all that shit in between. With our insights and your actions, let's be unstoppable together. Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone, to our newest episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. This May is not only Mother's Day, is on Sunday, which I really want to give a shout out to all of the moms out there, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I know for me and for you, Tina, that we both have had a lot of things happen in our lives around mental health. Your father had mental health problems. Pretty much everyone in my family has as well. And, I have been putting some videos out this month on mental health and on my socials and stuff. And I've been talking about, I really have a hard time with having labels. I have a hard time with labels, period. I think I don't like labels at all. I think that they're, especially when sometimes with younger people, they can be labeled and then they grow up with this label, whether it's from our parents, from teachers, from whoever, but labels can sometimes be detrimental. And I truly believe that, I have depression, but I don't feel like that is my label. I am not depressed. I may feel depressed, but that's not who I am. So I don't want to be labeled as, oh, you have depression. I don't want to be labeled as that. I find it very difficult for me. So we want to get into this a little bit. I know it's kind of a topic that maybe touches many of our listeners' lives as well. So I think that it's something important that we should be talking about right now.
Yeah, I know so many people that I talk to that will say, oh, I've been diagnosed with depression. I've been diagnosed with anxiety. I've been diagnosed with ADHD. I was talking to a woman who was 65 years old and she said, oh, I just recently was diagnosed with ADHD. I'm like, how did that make a difference in your life? Like knowing that, But I think sometimes people are dealing with things, experiencing things, and they don't understand, why am I different? Why does it seem like I'm alone in this? Why does it seem like I'm the only one experiencing these things? And so I think the label almost for some people gives them justification or validation. Oh, okay, this is a real thing. It's not just me, feeling alone and feeling all of these things. Like there's other people just like me. And so I think the labels sometimes almost help people feel better in a way, but obviously in your situation you're like, I don't like labels, like that's not who I am. And I think that's the slippery slope where people identify as being the label. I am depressed, I am anxious, and when
I have ADHD, or it becomes something that they use in conversation all the time. Oh yeah, well that's just my ADHD. Or, oh yeah, well, I'm depressed, so I get, but really and truly our way of being isn't, I suffer from depression. I do. And you never knew that. And I've known you for 3 or 4 years now, and you didn't know that because I don't talk about it like that because it's not who I am. And you know what I'm saying? It's not who I am. I'm still Vicky. And yes, I do. And some days I just need to have that quiet time for myself and work through it. But I want to be able to feel the feels. And I'm not saying that there's not, I don't minimize any form of mental health. I don't minimize anything. And that's not what I'm meaning with a label. What I'm saying is that when someone labels you, that's how they see you. That's how now I'm seeing. Oh, Vicky has depression. Watch it. Be careful. Don't talk to her, right? Like my youngest daughter, she has depression and anxiety. And what should we all, I find sometimes that as the family, they will walk on eggshells because they don't want to upset her and they don't want to, but she isn't that person. She suffers from those things. But I don't want to walk on eggshells all the time and not tell her how I feel or explain things because she's this fragile little bird that we can't, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, that's what I have a problem with.
Well, I read a book one time and it gave a real kind of interesting perspective. And it was shared. They were talking about a boy who could not leave his room because he had social anxiety disorder. So when he was out in social settings, out of his room, out of the comfort of his bubble, he felt really anxious. He had a hard time leaving the house. And this book was reframing that and saying it was actually a self fulfilling prophecy. The staying in your room, staying in your bubble was a way to cope with something that happened in the past. And then it became a bad habit. And then it became just the way of being and doing life because that was actually what you wanted. It's like, be careful what you wish for. Oh, I don't want to deal with the world. Okay, you know what? I'm going to lock myself in my bedroom. And now I'm going to put this label that I have social anxiety disorder instead of, okay, but let's get to the source. What happened that had you feel unsafe in social situations? What happened um, where you made an agreement with somebody else or some situation that it is unsafe to be in those situations? And I always like to, when I think about depression and anxiety, I know my dad was diagnosed with bipolar depression, anxiety, and then later it was schizophrenia. And I mean, he was always in and out of the hospital, different medications, all of this stuff. But I really do believe that depression, the word depression comes from the Latin word to cut off pressure. Depression is when you feel a lot of pressure. It's living in the past a lot of the times. It's not really what's happening right now. There's something that's being stirred up. And I believe that when we feel the darkness, when we feel the pressure, it's the light trying to come in because you can only reveal the light in the darkness. And all of that pressure is because maybe we're out of alignment with what our soul really needs and wants from this life. And so I look at my dad and I was thinking he was so intuitive. He helped the police find a missing person one time. He actually saved my life in utero because he had this vision that there was something wrong with the car. He actually prevented a major accident by pulling over right before the tire fell off. But because I think he had these intuitive gifts, he was different. But he was struggling with a lot of things, right? Somebody gave him a label. You're depressed. Here's a pill, take the pill. The first psychotic incident that he had, they gave him antipsychotics. Well, he had an episode, but when he took those pills, it was almost like it brought out more psychosis. And then he was on this constant, like, finding the right pills. And I'm like, man, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have said, wait a minute, dad, let's get back to the source. What from the past are you stuffing? Are you not dealing with? And anxiety sometimes is living too far into the future. So those anxious feelings usually aren't what's happening. It's this thing that we're creating in our minds about the what if scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what if I don't have enough money to survive? Or what if my relationship doesn't work out? Or what if I can't handle it? Like, so we're living so far into the future that we can't actually be fully present. And then when it gets to the point where we can't handle it on our own, we don't know how to process it, we don't have the tools, the strategies, maybe even the family upbringing or the social circle to really navigate the chaos in our life and our mind, then what do? We do what we have been trained and programmed to do. You go to the doctor, you let them know how you're feeling. And I know this happened to me during my first separation. I was drinking every day. I was stuffing my emotions. I felt like I couldn't cope with life. I didn't have consciousness or awareness or tools or strategy. And so when it felt all this pressure and I couldn't cope anymore, I went to my nurse practitioner and I told her, and she gave me this assessment. And she said, well, you're depressed. You have chronic depression. Like, what does that mean? No, that's not me. Like, I'm not depressed. She gave me a bottle of pills. She told me to take them. I went home. I was like, okay, wait a minute. Am I going to go down the same path as my dad? Or is there something else going on right now that I need to actually get to the source? What am I not dealing with? And that's when I started embarking on this path of personal development because I was like, if the only option I have right now is pills, what do I need to do to find another option? How can I help myself? And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do.
No, and I think that kind of goes to my point too, is, when something happens to someone, my mom had her stroke. We didn't know what to do. oh, there's a pamphlet over there, just read it, and right, that's kind of it's very much the same. At least now there's the internet, and yes, absolutely, but people go on the internet and then you go down a rabbit hole of, oh yeah, well this person, this happened, and this, oh, and then that must be what I have, and then it's all of these things. Like, my son was an addict, and then after he got clean, now he's got ADHD. And I'm like, okay, but I don't understand. So he's labeled as an addict. He's been clean for 6 years, but he's still labeled as an addict. That's the labeling that I don't like, because he's clean. And yes, I do know that I mean, I know that it's possible that anybody can go back. I know that that's possible, and that scares the hell out of me. It does. But I also know that when he's been told he has ADHD, now everything is in his mind. He has ADHD. So that label is now enhancing the things that he does, and it's almost a reason why he's doing it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I find that's the
Yeah, and
problem.
okay,
So you know what I mean? And I mean,
I'm gonna say something.
and I don't want to get, and I know that
Yeah,
this is controversial when I'm saying this, but what I'm saying too is that I look at him at 30. What is he going to be? 30. He just turned, it's 20, 34 years old. And I look at him and I think, I don't see an addict. I see a man who's loving and caring, and I don't see any of the labels that have been given to him over his life. I see him as my son. And I don't want you now that, and I know that this isn't something, but you now know that I have depression. Now you're gonna, oh, well, are you okay? Are you good? Are you all right? No, I'm good.
right?
You know?
I know, I'm
So,
like, okay, I talk to him every single day for the last 3 years. There hasn't been a day
yeah.
that's gone by
Nope.
that I haven't talked to Vicky, except for the one day when I missed on her birthday a couple of years ago.
For a
That's
boy.
another
Just
story,
saying.
okay?
Another
Still
story for another
sad about
time.
that. But it's what you said is so true. It's like once there's that label, because I know when my dad was diagnosed with schizophrenia, there was so much shame of it, like around that for me. Like, how do I go tell my friends, okay, my dad has kind of problems, and schizophrenia. Like I know growing up, we would see people walking down the street wandering, and you're like, what the heck is wrong with them, or talking to themselves like, oh my gosh, my dad is that person now, and I don't want people to come over to my house. I don't want, if he's going to have an episode, I don't want them to see that or be part of, like, there was so much stigma and shame. And even when you talk about labels, like my son has been sober for 6 years, yet he's labeled as an addict. It's I know people who had alcohol addictions who were alcoholics, and they've been clean, sober 36 years, more than half their life, but they still identify as being, I'm an alcoholic. And I'm like, what? Like, I just don't get that. Like, I mean, I recently 6 months ago quit drinking, and I drank probably more than I probably should. And if I did any of those tests, they say you should have 2 drinks a week, like a maximum.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh gosh, like I was having way more than 2 a day. So like somebody might be, well, yeah, you were an alcoholic, and then I quit, and now it's like, yeah, you're an alcoholic. No, that is not who I am. I may have had drinks, but I would never label myself as, like, who has the right to give us those labels, and why? What's the intention? What's the purpose? Is it to put us in a box, confine us? Like, I don't know.
Because
So when
not
you bring this
every
up, it's like
alcoholic is the
such an
same. Not every drug addict is the same. Not every person with schizophrenia is the same, right? Not every person with depression is the same. We're not in a box. And I think that that's that container that we're put in because of whatever the label is. That's where I have the problem. I
exactly.
do. I
Yep.
have that problem with that. My youngest son, all of a sudden, he went through a hard time. He went through a really hard time, and he was labeled with borderline personality disorder. So I'm like, I have never heard of that. Had never heard of that. So I look it up and I look everything up, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, yes, yeah, check, check, check some of those things, but no, 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 some of the other things. And then, I said to myself, okay, just recently, since I have been really like doing personal development and really looking within and finding what's working for me from the inside spiritually and just everything around me and being more in tune with things. And I spent a lot of time with him this past weekend, and I'm like, he doesn't have that. I know he doesn't have that. But and I said that to him. In your mind, if do you believe you have that? He goes, no, I don't. And he had stopped taking his medication a long time ago. But every time he would be off his medication, his partner would say, oh, he's been off of his medication, right?
Right?
He used it as a crutch and a reason for being that way. But he went through a huge life change at that time. Huge life change. And at that time, when he did that, there was a lot of outside sources and forces coming around, and he had a hard time. Now, I don't know if that's something that
Mhm.
can come and go, but even if that was what he had or what he has, I don't want it to be a crutch or something that he uses as an excuse for the way he chooses to be. Because
Mm.
sometimes you
Yeah.
choose, right? We choose to be something. Like I choose not to be depressed, even though I know chemically it's an imbalance and I know that. I get that. So I take medicine for that, right? So I don't fall into that. My chemical imbalance is there and I get that and I'm not disputing any of that. So medication does
Mhm.
help and I understand that. But I was also, when I was first diagnosed, I was going through a divorce with my first husband. I had
Right.
3 children. One was a newborn. I ran a
Right.
business. Yeah, yeah. I was a lot of things at that point in my life, right? So, but as the time has gone on, life happened through these last 20.
Mhm. Yeah, you know what? I think from a spiritual level, if we can just go there, because sometimes we do, it's like if our soul has a contract, we have a purpose in this world, we have lessons and corrections that we need to make. Do I really believe that the creator is going to say, I'm going to put you on this earth, Tina, to be an addict, to be an alcoholic, and I want you to like live in that space where you're an alcoholic? And no, like, no, we have a bigger purpose. And maybe the alcoholism, maybe the depression, maybe the anxiety is there to help you help others, to help you overcome with the obstacles that are put in your way. And when we see it as, yes, maybe we do have feelings of depression, but maybe when we overcome those feelings of depression, now look at you, you're giving that away to others. You're giving them tools and strategies on how to navigate life when there's a lot of chaos around. Because maybe your depression was the catalyst for something bigger. And had you have not had that experience or know what it's like to be there, you might not be able to help as many people because they would believe, but you don't know how I feel. You don't live
Exactly.
a day in my shoes. You don't know what it's like to have depression. We can say, yeah, we do. We do know what it's like to have this, to be that. But we're not here to be a product of our labels. We're here to rise above any situation that's holding us back from being the best version of ourselves. And when we can get to the source, and maybe it is a chemical imbalance, and it's like, okay, so if it is a chemical imbalance, there are people out there like Dr. Joe Dispenza that would say there's a huge mind body connection. What thoughts are contributing to the dis-ease? What thoughts are contributing to the chemical imbalance? If we're really willing to believe that everything is interconnected, it's so much bigger than us. And I think a month of mental health awareness is having these conversations. And I know that there are people that are listening right now that have been diagnosed with bipolar, with depression, with anxiety, with maybe addictions, maybe alcoholism. And I think the message that Vicky and I won't speak for you, Vicky, but like really want to get is despite what has happened or where you may have been, you can rise above any situation, any obstacle, any challenge, and be unstoppable. And it's not always letting go of the labels, letting go of the old version of us to create the new version. And we can create a new version every single day. We
Every
can
day.
decide, am I just the label or am I bigger than the label? Am I willing to believe that I am anxious, or am I willing to believe that I have anxious feelings that I need to work through? Are we willing to see that the darkness, the pressure is really just your light trying to be revealed, your essence trying to come out? And sometimes you
Absolutely.
got to feel the weight of the world in order to break through to whatever it is you're supposed to create in the world, what you're supposed to give away to your kids, your family, your community. It's so much bigger than what we can see, but we got to be willing to believe that we have infinite potential
Yeah.
despite anything
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that people tell us.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. I think that um, if it's possible, which anything is possible, and I truly believe that we get to choose. I don't say you get to choose how you that you have depression or anxiety, or I'm not saying that, but I think we get to choose how we get to be as well. Because every single day, if it's 5:30 or 6:30 and I get out of bed, I don't want to get out of bed at 5:30 in the morning every day, but I do because I know what it's good for me. I know for me personally, that's a good thing. So I choose to do things that make me feel good. I choose to take steps every single day to change myself from my old version to the new and improved version for me, because that's how I feel. I feel like every step that I'm taking towards knowing who I get to be and knowing what's possible for me and how many people that I can help and shift and support, then I get to do that every single day. That gives me the strength. And
Mhm.
I find that
So
with if we can focus on, I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine just today, and she said to me, I just don't want to get out of bed. I don't. And so when I don't have to, I don't. So I get up and I'll move from the bed to the couch, might not even change my clothes. I said, okay, so tell me more. She said she did. She explained it more. And I said, okay, how long's this been going on? She said, for a while, I'm in this rut. And I said, do you want to stay in it or do you want out of it? She stopped and she's like, I don't know. Like, why even get out of it? Why? And I said,
this
okay,
is the state of the world.
that's right. That's right. And so I just gave her I just asked her some questions and I gave her some, I said, you have a mom that's still here. Yes, she's older and you take care of her. You have friends that mean something. You are an amazing, giving, loving soul. Like you're that person. So you get to choose. You can stay in your house and not go out and do what you're doing, or you can get out in your yard and do the things that you want to do in bite-sized pieces. Don't look at it like everything has to be done and changed today. Take it one bite at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself with,
This is
oh
a
my goodness.
This is the problem. And this is the trap we get into as coaches, as giving human beings. We want to fast track somebody else's process. We want to tell them, well, I know it's hard, but you can get out and you can just take this one. It doesn't matter what we say and I want to really emphasize this because maybe there are people that are listening that have people that are struggling with depression or anxiety or whatever it is, and telling them what to do never helps them speed up their process. Never. Because they have to powerfully choose to come out or to stay in. And all we can do is really listen to their experience. And as soon as we try and give advice, there's, it's like we want to give. But giving in sometimes that situation, we're actually receiving because we are looking for something like, I'm looking to be a hero. I'm looking to rescue you. I'm going to be the one to
Yeah.
fix this.
Yeah, I get
No,
that.
nothing to fix,
No.
broken. Like the worst thing when you are stuck in a rut, when you're down and somebody comes with their positivity, and I'm sure we've all been there before. It's like, Vicky, just get out of bed. Just do your hair. Just eat some nutritious food and you'll feel better. You want to just say, you know what? F you. I'm not there yet. I don't want to. Whatever I'm going through. And this is the thing, this is such a personal process. It's almost like if we are depressed, that is our way of cutting off the pressure. That's what we know to do in that moment. It's like we can stay in that space for days, weeks, years, lifetime, but nobody can speed up our process. That's an inner game. And the people that struggle the most are the ones that actually have the most to give. They're the ones that are changing the world. If you look at people that have done big things in their life, most of them have come out of a situation that was so dark that they didn't know how they were going to get out. But
Hmm.
nobody pulled them out. They pulled themselves out
Yeah,
every time.
true.
And it's so easy to want to rescue people, but it never works because we can't play God. We can't, when we're in that dark place, the best thing we can do is be with the pain. Avoiding the pain prolongs the process. And so, what we do, and I know we talked about medication. I'm not saying if you're diagnosed with depression to stop taking your medication, but what we do is we go to the doctor, we get medication, and it numbs that pain, whatever we're experiencing, or numbs something, or we go get a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, or we go to the fridge and we eat food. It's like, help me feel good. And we don't just sit with the pain and be with it because there's an inner knowing in the pain, but you got to listen to it above
Yeah.
all voices. And I know I get into this trap where I'm like, oh no, like I'm a rescuer. I want to save the world. And I do it all the time. There's so many friends that I have where I'm like, ugh, just wake up, just get out of bed, just do this, just do that. And I'll give them advice. And it's like, if you give advice and you don't believe 100% they're going to take that advice, you're not actually giving, you're receiving. You're doing it for you, not them. And I'm saying you, but I'm not saying you, Vicky,
No, no,
but I'm
no.
just saying us. We got to be,
I agree with that,
it's
and
like because then
putting
we
it in
become
that perspective for our listeners as well, because yeah, it isn't that easy. Nothing is that, it isn't that easy. And we are all living our own human experience. Each one of us is living our own experience and it's completely different.
like you've seen me be a shit show when I was drinking. And if you would have said, like, oh, Tina, like you had a little bit too much to drink last night, or you were being a little bit this last night, or, maybe I think you should cut back on your drinking, I'd be like, what? What? Like, I would just be like, really? Okay, high and mighty, And if somebody said I needed to quit drinking, it wouldn't make me want to quit drinking. It would almost probably do the opposite.
Opposite.
But it was almost like one day when I listened to myself and I was like, okay, you feel like crap in the morning, you feel tired, takes you 5 days to feel like yourself again. You're somebody who's really big, up to big things in the world. Do you really want this to hold you back? I asked myself those questions. I'm like, what would it be like if I just gave it up? There was a moment that it was never going to be possible. And then the next moment, it was just like, yes. It was something in me, like a light switch that clicked. And I was like, I'm done. And I never craved it. I never thought about it. I still don't. I'm like, it's been 6 months. And I'm just like, no, when we went to Aruba, how are you being here on vacation and being the only one that's not drinking? And like, I haven't even thought about it because I was so in my mind, just, it was a choice in that moment. And I think we have to be in the dark for however long we need to be in the dark until we powerfully say enough is enough
Hmm.
and we choose. And we know that on the other side of the darkness is so many rewards and so many blessings. And we want people to see that. We want them to rise above. But at the same time, we know that I can't play God. And I think I have been for a long time. Like, okay, I can be the one. I can help you. Even with my dad, I couldn't. It wasn't my journey. It wasn't my process.
And you taught me that a few weeks ago. I was having an issue and you said to me, I can come in and save the day, but that's A, not going to teach you anything. Right. And it was the truth. I had to put myself into the situation that was created. And then I got to powerfully make a decision and a choice to say, okay, this is how I'm going to show up. Me. I'm not going to have you save the day. This is my choice. And that was probably one of the most profound moments I've had in, my goodness, I can't even tell you how long, because it changed my perspective on many things. And it changed
Mm-hmm.
my outlook on many things. And it made me really aware of taking that pause and not reacting, not being reactive, and understanding that everyone is on
Yeah.
their own journey and everyone is in their own, in their own movie and playing and in their own story. This has nothing to do,
Yeah.
theirs has nothing to do with me. And it took me that, and it really did. And it's like that practicing and that pattern and that practice of seeing it happen and then stopping yourself and asking yourself, okay, why is this happening? What is this for? And really getting clear on it instead of just, I want to be cause. I don't want to be at the effect of other things. I want to be the cause of it.
Boom. Like, I mean, I don't think we could end on a better note. Be the cause, not the effect. And yes, sometimes we need to dig really deep when we're stuck in that dark place, but we have infinite potential and a whole
Absolutely.
world of possibilities to live into.
Yes, we do.
So, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Vicky, thank you for sharing your story. And I my intention is to just reduce some of the stigma attached to mental health and
Me too.
well-being and
Yep.
help people see that we're not alone. We're not living this human experience alone. We're in it together, and together we're better. So thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Next time. Well, friends, that is the end of our episode today. If you love this episode, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And please share us with your friends and tag us on your socials at The Art of Being Unstoppable. So for today, have yourself a beautiful day and let's be unstoppable together. See you next time.